afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing?
3:50 Central. On top of all the challenges that come with experiencing homelessness, those who menstruate can face additional hardships. A campaign launching in Thunder Bay this week called Shark Week aims to raise awareness of period poverty. Organizers are releasing a series of social media videos featuring public figures talking about the issue. They're also raising funds to collect period products for Shelter House. Chelsea Opperman is the founder of the Lakehead University Philanthropic Association, which is running the campaign. Thunder Bay City Councillor Shelby Chung is also lending a hand. I reached them earlier today and I started by asking Chelsea why they decided to call it Shark Week.
So when I met with Shelby and we were talking kind of about this campaign and what we wanted to do, we were playing around with names that would be interesting and catch people's attention, and we decided on Shark Week because it is kind of also an innuendo for your period and having your period.
Shelby, what did you think of that?
Yeah, we just kind of wanted to get people's attention to bring some awareness for this issue.
How can period poverty affect people facing homelessness in particular?
So it can affect people in a number of ways. Access to a washroom is a big issue. Clean pads and tampons. Having a period in dignity is hard enough. Living on the street is a lot worse, which is why we wanted to do this.
Chelsea, so how did you become interested in the issue of period poverty?
So last year I ran a period drive, which was my first drive last year, where I went and I donated over 7,000 pounds of tampons to the Shelter House, which kind of started after a non-perishable item drop-off that I organized. So we went to the shelter and they expressed the constant need for these period products. And it's an issue that's really close to my heart too, as someone who grew up in period poverty and sometimes not knowing where my next products would come from for my period.
Quite the
so
topic,
it's an issue that's really close to my heart, and I wanted to make an impact within my community and address that issue.
Councillor, when you were asked to help with this campaign, what stood out to you about it?
Well, both Chelsea and Kayla approached me because I put forward a resolution a couple of years ago to get access to pads and tampons in city facilities, which passed and now is part of our purchasing for the city of Thunder Bay. So it was interesting to me because I think that this is often overlooked when people are thinking about giving to their local shelters, and it's definitely a need that many people face.
Why is it overlooked?
I think there's a lot of stigma around talking about your period and menstruation. I've spoken with, later in the week, we will be dropping videos with speaking with men in positions of power. And you find that people have a very awkward time talking about periods. So it's often something that isn't thought about.
Yeah, tell me more about these videos featuring men.
So we came up with a loose script, and we ask men in positions of power how tampons work. And I give them a tampon and ask them how to use it. The men who participated in that particular video were the city manager, Norm Gale, who's actually chief of EMS. He squirmed a little bit in the seat. You'll see later on in the week. Councillors Michael Zazino and Councillors Greg Johnson as well.
And, did they know how to use a tampon?
I think they had a loose idea of how it worked, but the applicator, the packaging, it kind of caught them off guard a little bit. They were very good sports about it and wanted to participate. So it's one of those ways to break down those barriers and have those awkward conversations. All three of them are fathers and understand. They're very smart men. But when it comes to talking about periods and menstruation, they definitely were blushing.
Chelsea, tell me about the other videos that you have planned.
Yes, a lot of them are just conversations with these men and just talking about the stigmas and the barriers that exist for these people in homelessness and how to give dignity back to them. Shelby mentioned 3 counselors. We also have a video coming out with the mayor, where he's addressing how to bring dignity back to these people in homelessness who are experiencing menstruation. And we have a video that talks and connects the menstrual cycle to Indigenous communities and cultures, and tying all of that together as well. communities and offer those products and services.
Councillor Chung, so what do you hope this campaign achieves?
I do hope we bring a bit more dignity when we talk about people who are experiencing homelessness. Sometimes we can get caught up in thinking of people as not people, and I do hope that this campaign kind of is a launch point for just remembering that we all need to be treated with dignity and respect, and I really hope that we can fundraise and help build this media in the community, and I'm so thankful that Chelsea and Kayla reached out to me, and we were able to work together.
Chelsea, so how can people help out?
So we have a few ways that you're able to support us. We have a GoFundMe link running through our Instagram page right now. You can arrange for product donation drop-offs, or you can even check out the Loud Woman Collective at Co. They have stickers that talk about the need for menstrual products that are available, and $1 from those sales are going to be donated to our campaign, as well as Trinidad Oaks collection. $5 from the sun catchers will also be donated to our campaign, and also just sharing and talking about this and reposting our videos and our information that we're posting to help it just reach a larger audience.
Chelsea Opperman is founder of the Lakehead University Philanthropic Association. Shelby Chung is a city councillor in Northbay. There are two people leading this week's Shark Week Area Poverty Campaign in Northbay. We're just a few minutes away from your national news. Coming up the next hour of Up North, it's Monday, which means time for another edition of Northern Notch. This week, we're in Nebing to meet the family team who moved up from Southern Ontario to start a sheep farm. And Canada Reads is just a week away. We'll hear about the final book up for consideration this year, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. That's coming up in Up North right here on CBC Radio 1. We'll be back after the world this hour.
This is CBC Radio 1, 89.9 FM in Chapleau.
Hi, I'm Michael Greyeyes. I'm an actor, director, and choreographer. I'm championing Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel in Canada Reads. A lot of the things that we really value only matter if they happen with each other. What brings us together, what we fight for. I think that could help shift the way Canadians think about how we're going to just move forward together and what we have to leave behind.
Canada Reads, one book to shift your perspective. It all starts March 27th. For more, go to cbcbooks.ca. Tonight on The National, a mountain of garbage, 18 stories high, and it's deadly.
This is the ward where there is the highest proportion of tuberculosis.
Why Mumbai scavengers still make it a way of life. Join us on Canada's Newscast, tonight at 10:30 in Newfoundland on CBC and CBC Gem.
From CBC News, The World This Hour, I'm Gavin Day. 2 staff members were among the people injured during a stabbing incident at a high school in Nova Scotia. The suspect, a student, was placed under arrest. It happened at around 9:20 this morning at Charles P. Allen High School in Bedford. Constable Nicholas Gagnon is with the Halifax Regional Police.
So officers located 3 people who were injured, and we can confirm that one of those persons injured is our suspect. They are all being treated in hospital at this time. We do not have any information on the extent of the injuries.
A spokesperson with the Halifax Regional Centre for Education says the stabbing took place in the school's office. So far, police aren't saying anything about a possible motive. It could be several days before firefighters are able to enter the heritage building that caught fire in Old Montreal. 6 people are still missing. The remains of a 7th person were pulled out yesterday. Many of the people in the building were renting Airbnbs at the time. Montreal's Mayor Valérie Plante says it's time for the company to make sure the units being rented on their app are legal and safe.
it should be an obligation, and it would make our life easier, and we would know who's illegal and who's legal, because when you're not legal, they don't pay taxes like we all do here, and to me that's not fair. And I want to use the contributors tax money for more inspectors, sure, but I also want Airbnb to do their job.
The mayor says she plans to work on ways to further hold Airbnb to account. Central banks around the world, including Canada's, are injecting billions of dollars into global markets. The extra liquidity is meant to calm the waters after a tumultuous week for Zurich-based Credit Suisse. Yesterday, the failed bank was bought out by Switzerland's biggest bank. Scott Peterson has more.
Both sides resisted this merger just last week, and now with a little arm twisting by the Swiss government, UBS has agreed to buy its rival in a historic deal. Credit Suisse is considered to be among those 30 of the biggest banks in the world, and as a result, too big to fail for the harm its collapse would mean to other banking institutions. Now, part of what's extraordinary as well is the Swiss government changed the laws to allow the deal to go through without having to consult shareholders for their approval. It's also prompted the Bank of Canada to coordinate with other central banks around the world and making sure there's enough liquidity in the system to go around. And that's a rare move by central banks, used back during the financial crisis of 2008 to show the seriousness of how they are reacting to the current market turmoil. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has welcomed Chinese President Xi Jinping to Moscow. The two called each other dear friend and exchanged compliments before their meeting. Putin welcomed China's proposals for a political settlement in Ukraine. Tourism officials in Regina are apologizing for a controversial tourism campaign. The campaign included rebranded tourism slogans that raised eyebrows and had many calling them sexist and inappropriate. Now, days just after being introduced, they're being pulled. Sam Sampson reports.
This song is just one part of the city's tourism rebrand. It's a cover of a viral YouTube video from 2008 that pokes fun at the city. But other parts of the rebrand have been scrapped for being sexist and inappropriate. The slogans are "Show us your Regina" and "The city that rhymes with fun." Both playing on the idea, of course, that Regina is similar to the word vagina.
Explain that to a 7-year-old.
Citizen Kristen McLeod wrote an open letter to the mayor saying that is embarrassing.
An entire entity of people in an organization approved this.
The campaign was announced Thursday, and by Sunday night, the organization apologized. It scrapped the slogans and upcoming merchandise, but they are keeping other aspects of the rebrand, including the title, Experience Regina, and this song. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
And that is your world this hour. For CBC News, I'm Gavin Day.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Pinto. From Kapuskasing to Marathon and all across Northern Ontario, welcome back to Up North. Coming up this hour, Canada Reads is just a week away. We'll hear about the final book up for consideration this year, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And weeks after the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, thousands of people are still dealing with injuries that need to be treated. We'll talk to a doctor who was in Syria recently and tells us about the situation on the ground. But first, here's Kate Rutherford with your regional headlines.
Thanks, Jonathan. The provincial government wants to put a new layer of protection in place for migrant workers, boosting fines against employers who withhold passports or work permits as a way of controlling people. Also in the news, the price of farmland in Northern Ontario rose about 13% in value over last year. That's less than the 19% average increase for the whole province, according to a new report. I'll have more on these and other stories at the bottom of the clock.
Thanks, Kate. Right now in North Bay, light snow, -1, feels like -5. In Greater Sudbury, light snow, -2, feels like -6. In Timmins, mostly cloudy, -6, feels like -10. In Sault Ste. Marie, mostly cloudy, -2, feels like -8. In Thunder Bay, mainly sunny, -4, feels like -9. And in Kenora, mainly sunny, -6, feels like -11. Bridget will be here after the news with your complete forecast for Northern Ontario. This is CBC Radio 1. We're at 88.3 in Thunder Bay, 96.1 in Powassan.
Nice little storm. Don't know how long it'll last, but I wasn't expecting anything today.
Sure. So this is a story that initially is set in Toronto. A very dramatic opening at the Princess of Wales Theatre, and the actor, who is from Toronto, or he's from Canada, but he's made it big in Hollywood, and he's playing King Lear, dies on this stage, has a heart attack, and there were other people there, and then we become connected through the novel to these 5 people. We're all sort of connected to that moment in time when he passes away. But what is unknown when to everybody in North America or around the world is that this plague is about to reach North America, and it's going to wipe out 99% of the population. And it moves back and forth between 20 years after the collapse to about 20 years before the collapse, and then sort of what we would call present day. It's really it's riveting.
Yeah, I read this book before the pandemic, and I loved it then. But I've been thinking about it ever since, over the last 3 years.
I can imagine.
What was it like reading this book? Given what we've gone through over the last 3 years.
Oh well, that's one of the things that's so amazing about this film. About this novel is that it was sort of like I had two books on the go. So I was reading the story. I thought when we got into the flu pandemic part, which is very early on, say in the first 20 pages or so, I thought, oh, it's another COVID story. You know, I've just done a film festival and we had two films, documentaries that were about living through COVID. And I thought, okay, here we go. And then I went, wait a minute. I think I saw the date 2015 on the cover. So I flipped back, and sure enough, I realized that this was written well before. And so that just brought such a fascinating window, given what we've just gone through, to look at how someone imagined a flu virus that would become a world pandemic would actually play out versus what we had just gone through. And so it was like I was going, I felt like I had these two, like my own experience and how she imagined it in this novel. So it was so interesting. In terms of how dead on she was in terms of how some things played out, and then how different it was, in terms of what we went through with COVID. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned this is the first novel you read in a long time.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, I was, I kind of felt like a born-again reader. It was, things that, this might sound trite because, of course, people who read know these things and we hear these things, but coming to it sort of with a beginner's mind, I noticed that I noticed that I calmed down when I was reading it. I felt very peaceful. The skill of the writer was such that I was never pulled out. I wasn't distracted. I was just like full on in. And at first I was just attributing that, and I was thinking, I guess reading is a really cool way to relax and expand your mind at the same time. And then I realized, oh no, this is not every book. This book is extraordinary, which is why it's going to win.
You've looked at what Emily St. John Mandel has said about this book.
Yeah.
And I mean, what does she say about Station 11, especially now in this COVID world?
At first, because she loved...
Well, everyone, see tomorrow how much snow this storm brings. And, see what happens. Have a good one. If you're on the road tonight, be safe. Take care.